Hi everyone, my name is Abuchi and I am delighted to be speaking with Madawi Al-Rasheed. It's International Women's Day and this year the theme is Choose to Challenge. And Madawi is one of many female leaders who has made an incredible difference and continues to make an incredible difference by challenging inequality. Madawi is currently a visiting professor at the LSE Middle East Center. She's also taught at a number of universities, including Oxford and my very own alma mater, King's College. And she's a fellow of the British Academy. She's published several articles and books on politics in the Middle East, on gender policies and current affairs. And she regularly contributes to international TV and print media, has appeared in several documentaries, given seminars around the world, and carries out consultancy work for governments and non-governmental organizations and businesses around the world, and has an absolute passion for achieving more freedom for women around the world, and especially in the Middle East. So Madawi, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with me here today. Welcome, and we're looking forward to our conversation.
I'm delighted to be interviewed by you and NKD.
You're welcome, and really looking forward to our conversation. And already, I'm sure as I introduce you, people already get that sense, those that don't know you, that you are a woman that is passionate about women's equality. And I'd love to dive straight in and ask you, why is this topic of women's equality so important to you?
It's absolutely essential. Women have a lot of potential, and without equality, this potential can't be unleashed, and they will be relegated to secondary class citizens in their countries, in their organizations, at school. And without equality, they cannot achieve what they are capable of achieving. And there's always a personal story when you are passionate about a topic such as gender equality. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I was one of the lucky ones because I had a family that actually supported me and encouraged me to achieve a lot, especially in education. But it is not enough to have a supportive family if you are living in a very, very conservative and repressive society and government. So whatever I was able to achieve, I can't actually take my achievement from the private domain of my home and my family to the outside world. I was restricted. I could not pursue a career I wanted to pursue. I always needed the signature of my father in order for me to travel abroad or to study or choose career. Even going to a hospital for treatment, you need to have what is called your guardian, and who happens to be always a male person of your family. So that situation gave me was very frustrating, and I wanted to change that. So when I came to Britain in 1983 to start my higher education, I was determined that this situation has to be changed. And I pursued an academic career and hoping to understand why these restrictions are imposed on women in my home country, which is Saudi Arabia. And with that academic knowledge, I was able to move to activism and call for women's full equality as full citizens. They are given the right to vote, they are given the right to drive a car, which we take for granted in Britain and elsewhere in the world. But women in Saudi Arabia only achieved that in 2018. They were the last women to be able to drive their own cars. And at the same time, you feel that I felt that I was exposed to a lot of opportunities as I left Saudi Arabia with my education, I managed to get jobs. I managed to become a respected member of the academic community. I flourished, but I only flourished because I was treated with respect as a woman from the beginning of my career. So that personal background inspired me to continue the struggle and allow the younger women who are just coming into their full potential to enjoy the freedom that I had enjoyed, unfortunately, outside my country of origin.
Wow, wow, wow. What a story. Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting because sometimes we can engage with this topic and it's theoretical and it's distant and it's happening there. And just to hear you describe how this is personal, it's not just something you've seen that is impacting others, but something that has impacted you. And I just even hearing that story of going to the hospital, something that we take as a basic right, and I can just go in and I get what I need, and to think that even there are restrictions, and that word really stood out to me, that restriction of being able to not only live our potential, but even things that we need. And I'm sure there are so many people that are grateful for you and what you have done as a result of that, just taking that, your personal experience, and be inspired to do something incredible. And I'm sure just already there you talked about what's happened in Saudi Arabia in 2018, and no doubt with all of the work you've done, you've come across so many women over the years that have achieved incredible things. And can you share a story of a particular woman's achievement that is special to you?
Yes, there is an activist in Saudi Arabia, a young 30-year-old woman by the name of Lujain Al-Hudlul. The whole world knows her story. She started her campaigns in a very, very repressive society and government. She wanted women to be free, to enjoy the achievements that one enjoys abroad. So she campaigned for the right to drive a car in 2014. As a result, she ended up in prison in Saudi Arabia because the regime thought that her activism is a national security threat. And they put her on trial in a court that specialized. Can you imagine? And she has spent 3 years of her life in prison, a young woman who has a lot of potential to be a leader in her own country. But she was treated so badly. She was tortured in prison. She was put in solitary confinement. And only a month ago, she was released, but she is still banned from travel. She can't talk to the media. She can't use her Twitter account to say anything that would inspire women or mobilize them. So this young woman who emerged in that repressive government and repressive situation is very, very brave. It's fine for some people to go abroad in exile and start campaigning from the comfort of, let's say, London or Washington. But this young, brave woman stayed behind, and she paid a very high price. The most amazing thing was an image of her after she left prison just a month ago with a big smile on her face. She suffered, but I'm sure she will continue her struggle. So she is my model of a young, brave women fighting for equality in a country like Saudi Arabia.
Wow. I had goosebumps just listening to that story. And a word you used at the end there, Madawi, just stood out to me. You said a fight, and a fight for this a right and the freedom. And it sounds like in some cases we get to fight through social media, we get to fight through our words, and some people like Lujain are paying a real personal, physical price for this. And You described her as brave. She sounds incredibly brave. Thank you for sharing this story and raising more awareness about the price that people are still having to pay for this incredible human right, which is sobering. And so much of what you said there just really points to the fact of some of the bias that is still there today. And you even said you're on, one of the reasons you went into academia was just to understand why is this still happening. Could you share a bit more light on what are you still seeing today as bias, whether conscious or unconscious, that still exists today?
Well, there's quite a lot to be done with regard to gender equality. And what is really positive is the awareness of people in society and also in corporations, in businesses, that this has to change. And here I must talk about my friend, Sue Stoneman, who is a source of inspiration because she is actually doing something about it in real terms. She walks into organizations as big as, as big as you can imagine. But I want to say something about her as a personal friend rather than as a professional woman. It is from the day I met her, I realized that she is an inspiring woman, that she is actually a strong woman who could bring the best in other women and men. And one thing that struck me about Sue is her ability as a woman, as an educated woman, to listen to others. She's got the sixth sense, I would say, that allows her to capture what anxiety people have, and then she designed the program to actually release that anxiety and overcome it. So she is doing incredible work to tackle bias, which is still persistent, and the bias, it can be legal. One thing that still bothers me as an academic is why we don't have more professors at academic institutions, at universities. It's still, the whole professorship world is dominated by men, and therefore we need more awareness that this is the situation now in countries as advanced as the United States or Britain. Another thing is equal pay for men and women. When I was young and I was promoted, it never really crossed my mind that in a country like Britain, I could be paid less than a male professor. And with time, I became aware of that. And therefore, the work that NKD does and Sue's professionalism, I think, sprung out of this awareness and ability to listen to people. So bias is still there, but we need more training, more awareness in order to overcome this hurdle that really puts women at the bottom of the pile.
Brilliant. Thank you, Madawi. I'm looking forward to interviewing Sue as well, actually, to find out just more about her perspective and passion for this topic. And it's great that on the one hand, you say the awareness is growing. It is sobering at the same time to hear you say, even in countries as advanced as the US, UK, there is still room for growth. There's, whether it's in academia and more female professors coming in and their voices valued, and or equal pay, valuing the contribution, the impact that women have equally as the impact that men have. And it sounds like that training is needed just to continue to raise the awareness within institutions, within organizations, and good to know that you feel people are doing something about it. So there is progress being made.
That There's one important factor here. All businesses these days are global and they work in multiple countries. So they have to be aware when they go into business partnership with their counterparts in a country like Saudi Arabia. They have to actually realize that they are perpetuating discrimination against women. And this is why a training program for these big global corporations to raise awareness that you cannot go into a country, open businesses, you have a moral and ethical responsibility, because if you do that, you are actually perpetuating inequality globally.
I'm glad you said that, Madawi. You know, this year, as I mentioned earlier on, the theme for International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge, and it's comments like that that are so important. Those challenging comments saying, guys, silence isn't enough, or being ignorant isn't enough. If you are working in partnership with organizations all around the world, then, and you're not saying anything, then you are perpetuating it, even if you are not actively trying to make it happen. So there is, as you say, just a moral and ethical responsibility we have to our fellow human beings to do something about this. You are clearly doing so many incredible things, you know, speaking and writing and teaching. And what else are you doing or just give some more specifics about what you're doing to take action and establish equality in this area?
Well, I think the place to start is from home. So I brought up two children, a boy and a girl, and I was so aware that my daughter and my son have equal opportunity. And you have to be aware as a mother that, you know, you might have internalized certain bias against the girls and not encourage them enough. So that's where you start, and that's where I started. And the next thing I did is, obviously, in addition to my professional work, I went into establishing a political party called the National Assembly Party, which works in exile, and its focus is on Saudi Arabia. It calls for democracy and for gender equality. And we are campaigning every day to release women political prisoners in Saudi Arabia, those like Lujain al-Hudlul I mentioned earlier, but there are other women who are actually imprisoned simply because they express an opinion and call for equality. So I, in a way, moved from my academic work, my professional life, to being a real activist and engaged in the politics of the country where I came from. So I hope you know, that would be a process that can be carried out, can be continued by the next generation. And then, you know, I think if I get to that, I feel like I succeeded in my campaign and in my passions for women's equality.
Wow, and already it feels like an incredible legacy, an incredible difference that you are making. I love the fact, Madawi, that you said it starts from home for you, and just thinking about the influence on your own families, and hopefully people that listen to this will think of this not only, okay, what should I be doing out there, or what could I be doing out there, but actually just in my own circle of influence, whether that's my home, my friends, you know, what am I saying? What am I doing to help encourage more equality? So thank you for sharing that. And we certainly wish you all the best with all of the incredible things that you are doing, and pray that they continue to make a huge difference. I just want to wrap up. So much, it feels like we could talk for ages, but I'd love to just ask if there is any final words, thoughts that you'd like to offer to those listening.
I think, if my listeners are in the business community, I think it is absolutely important that they should start thinking about gender equality, especially if they go abroad and, seek investment opportunities or businesses. And it is absolutely important because the world has changed. The big corporations, whether they are oil companies or factories or industry, any kind of industry, especially also the entertainment industry, they have a responsibility when they go abroad to countries that are really repressive. They need to get some training and an understanding of the gender situation before they jump on the opportunity and invest their capital in a country like Saudi Arabia. And they should actually have the training, because eventually, if they fail to do so, their shares will be affected, because people now are aware of the ethical profile of a particular business or a particular company, and without meeting the standard of gender equality, they will be affected in the future, and they may find that their shares are falling simply because they haven't heeded the message that so many activists around the world are telling them. So before you jump on the opportunity to go and invest and start a business and transfer capital from the West to other countries in the world, they really have to do their research and refuse to abide by the local legal system of, that makes women second-class citizens.
Brilliant final words there, and a reminder that actually we can do something. We may not be in those countries, we may not be campaigners, but even in the world of business, the choices that we make, the partnerships and that we form, we can use that as an opportunity to contribute to this topic, and we all win, not just commercially, but just as a human race. Madawi, thank you so much for your time today, for your contributions, and wish you all the best with the incredible work that you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.